Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso Gran Sport Automatic. You can see you can purchase this stainless steel automatic winding sports-oriented Reverso on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this Reverso Gran Sport Automatic with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Reverso Gran Sport Automatic. The timepiece on my wrist represented the first ever automatic winding Reverso, but more than that, when the Gran Sport line debuted in 1998, it marked the first serious effort since the 1930s to position the Reverso as a sports watch. Originally conceived in 1931 as a solution for British polo players, the idea being they could rotate the watch onto its steel side to avoid the blows of mallets and thus save the crystal, it quickly became a timepiece to be worn in gentle company, in delicate situations with formal attire, not a watch to be slammed hard or worn in earnest by the active lifestyle set. Well, the Gran Sport did a little bit to move the watch back towards its original intent, and this watch was perhaps the best example of the Gran Sport series in that regard. Stainless steel with more of a barrel-shaped profile than the traditional rectangular Reverso, the watch still wears easily thanks to the well-proportioned case and a smartly designed integrated bracelet to match. In sports watch fashion, it's a steel watch with a bracelet, but it's a compact 27mm from 9 to 3, not including the crown, though relatively girthy by the standards of a dress watch. If you frame it as a sports watch, 10.4mm is actually pretty reasonable, and the timepiece is easily worn because lug to lug it is a 43.4mm watch that extends to a still very wearable 48.9 across the wrist with the end links of the bracelet extended. And I like to say if you have a smaller wrist, which for a man I define as about 14 to 16.5 centimeters, you want a watch that's less than 50mm lug to lug. With fewer than 50mm across the wrist, a watch is going to wear well in that wrist size. And so it is here. The bracelet is thoughtfully designed and surprisingly deluxe. If you're wondering where the current JLC 5-link bracelet design came from, well, 1998 and the Reverso Gran Sport series. As you can see, the watch does have a little bit of an idiosyncratic lug profile, and it does look best on the bracelet as the contrast between the rubber strap with its triple prongs and the polish of the stainless steel case is a bit awkward. The bracelet truly is the way to buy and wear this watch. You'll note it is a thoughtfully finished bracelet, every individual link faceted, and you'll note that the links are alternately satin finished and polished with a handsome bevel down the outside. This is a thoughtfully finished bracelet that's a bit more graceful and artistically conceived than a sports watch bracelet truly needs to be. The 90s were an era when sports watches on bracelets often had a link profile that worked equally well for dress occasions, and nowhere is that better seen than in the Omega Seamaster 300 Diver Bond watch and this Reverso Gran Sport. Same kind of sensibility, a bracelet for any occasion. You'll also note that the bracelet has large gaps between the links to avoid pinching skin and pulling hair, and plenty of channels to aerate the wrist on a hot day to let air currents get down to the skin. You'll also note that there is a spring bar, not a pin in a sleeve, but a spring bar for sizing each individual link, and that's on both sides, so you can truly get a tailored and micrometrically precise fit due to the removable links, full removable links, and there is a micrometric sizing feature built into each side of the double deploying clasp. It's really more of a quadruple trigger double deploying clasp, but you have that small extensible adjustment on both sides, and taking both of them out is the equivalent of adding a single link. Pulling both of them in is the equivalent of removing a single link, and then collapsing just one and snapping it into place is the equivalent of a half link. So you really can size this to suit. It's smarter even than Rolex's Easy Link system. You see the clasp nicely finished. I mentioned that it's a bit more involved than a traditional double deployant, and that's because you have two separate clasps with two separate trigger actuations. So all four of them need to be depressed to open this clasp. That's a good measure of security. You'll also note fully finished. The Gran Sport was a flagship product for JLC, so there's no stamping mark, machining mark, burrs, or mold lines. There's nothing here to betray evidence of the original manufacturing. It feels and looks like a premium product. You'll also note that the cradle itself is seamless with no marks or run lines or sharp edges to dig the underside of the wrist. The case itself is different than a conventional Reverso. Let's focus in off the wrist. We can dig into the details. The backside has a channel down the center to relieve moisture, grit, sweat, anything that may build up on the wrist. It's there to allow the wrist to aerate on a hot day because this is a sporting Reverso. Whereas a conventional Reverso has a 3 ATM or 30 meter splash only water resistance. These models were designed in earnest for surface bathing, and as a result they had 5 ATM or 50 meter water resistance, and it's one of the few instances in which you'll see a Reverso with a screw down crown. So the watch was designed for more active use right off the bat. The fact that it was loomed with a screw-down crown and automatic winding on a full bracelet reveals just how far Jaeger-LeCoultre was taking the sports Reverso concept. Now you can see when viewed from head-on, it does have that barrel profile rather than the conventional rectangular Reverso, and I think that was designed to help get away from the notion that only old men wore non-round watches. Giving the watch a little bit more of a rounded profile took away a little bit of the fuddy-duddy factor, and I think I can say that particular quality of the watch endures. Now you'll note that there is a hobnail grid at the center of the dial, applied indices, broadsword hands, and you'll note there is a difference in tone. There is a difference in tone because this is an older tritium dial that has lost most of its punch. The hands at center, despite looking like the tritium fade, are actually the functional luminova component of the watch. The rest of the dial has been left original, so I'll have a lume shot at the end to show you what the watch looks like in the dark. You will note center seconds, historically not a common feature of Reversos, and a date window, a jump date at 6 o'clock. This is a practical watch designed to be your only watch. In an era when a Rolex Submariner is an everyday office watch, this watch was designed to go after that market. Additional features include the fact that you could pull out the crown and hack the movement. It's a caliber 960R, R meaning rectangular profile, so it had a special movement holder to allow it to fit into the rectangular case. Automatic winding with a 45-hour power reserve. It had a 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate. The hacking seconds function, but then it also had a quick set date function, so you could rapidly cycle the date should the watch run down or encounter an irregular length month. Now you can turn this watch over and you'll realize this is one respect where not much has changed since the good old days. The watch remains bare on its back, all of high polish, and should you choose, suitable for customization. If you want to engrave, lacquer, enamel, you have that flexibility. I will say though that with a Reverso, part of the fun is mystifying your friends with that blank case back, forcing them to guess what on earth you're wearing, and for that reason alone, I would leave this one tabula rasa. This is a handsome and versatile watch, and historically an important one. Part of the rebirth of the Reverso in a modern era, this is a watch that heralded the return of the Reverso to its status as an icon of the manufacturer and one of the mainstays of the collection. The 90s were all about the rebirth of JLC and the Reverso, and the Gran Sport, as the first ever automatic Reverso and a sports watch to boot, played an important role in that sequence. You can see and you can purchase this unusual historical milestone on our website.